Thank you for joining. This video is going to be a quick one, but I needed to get this out the way so to set the record straight. This is regards to what I do as an artist, what I do as a designer. However you want to say it, however you want to cut it, that's fine with me. But I need to set the record straight with regards to this. There was a guy like a couple of weeks ago that said I wasn't a real artist and I don't know what I'm doing. And I think it's best that sometimes you have to let people know and understand what it is that you do and why you do it and why you keep doing it. I've been doing this for years, but it hasn't been something I've been doing steadily each month for those years because of work and other activities. But recently, this year and last year, I've been keeping up with it pretty strong, and I've been doing a couple of stuff. I've been working for other people with regards to this, and I've been doing mostly studies. So I wanted to make sure people understand what it is that I do and why I do it, and explain it in detail. So the first thing I need to explain is that yes, I'm a real artist, and yes, I've been doing this for quite some time. And if something looks a certain way within my art, it's because it's intended to look that way. It is not that it is not intended to look that way. It is intended to look that way. Now, if something is extremely small, it's because sometimes I work on paper that are 8 by 11 and smaller because I'm testing my skills, because I want to see how things look, and because if you're someone who uses your hands, most of my stuff is freehand. So when I use something by freehand, that means it's a certain size. And when you use something a certain size, 8.5 by 11, on paper that are smaller, the main thing you have to realize, it's really comes down to detail of the hands, your use of your hands. Your hands is the main thing. You have to constantly focus on not sketching or scribbling off the paper. Your lines have to be accurate. When you're tracing over something, those lines have to be accurate. When you're moving your ruler or whatever, those lines have to be accurate on those lines. When you're doing curve, those lines have to be accurate on those lines. When you do the anatomy of the head, anatomy of the chest, anatomy of the legs, the femur, the scapula, the cranium, the hands, whatever other, the pelvis, you name it, you stuck it together. You know, the spinal column, the rib cage, whatever it is. You have to see all these things playing out all at the same time. There's also components within those, within the shell of the skeleton and outside, such as the skin and everything. So all of these things are playing out all at the same time. It's not just some fluffy texture from the outside. When you see an art on a wall, when you see an art within movies, when you see something within a poster, and you're saying to yourself, "Oh, that looks great," or you see something and say, "Oh, that looks garbage," you're viewing from the outside, from the audience perspective. You're not viewing from the artist perspective. The artist is trying to convey something to you, trying to tell you something. It was drawn that way. It was designed that way. An artist could do something that looks like a Rembrandt if they wanted to spend that amount of time and do something that looks like a Rembrandt. If an artist wanted to do something that looks like a comic book, that's what they wanted to do at that moment. If an artist, it looks like his stuff is jumbly, or the neck is too wide, or the eyes are too slanty, or this is there, it's because some artists like to do things from paper. Most do it from the pen or from the computer. Let's say the pen of the Photoshop computer, and then they balance the lines using the pen tool of the Photoshop computer. That's okay. But here's the thing. If you're using a computer to do most of your work for you, you're using a computer to do most of your work for you. And that's all right. That's based on accuracy if you're doing something accurate. But if you're basing something on personal skills to you, you cannot depend on a computer to get those accuracies done. You have to see it for yourself. Can I do it just as accurate as this computer is helping me? Photoshop or Illustrator is simply a tool to assist you to do something to get it done better. You cannot compare one artist to the next. If an artist does something from a sketch perspective and one does something from a Photoshop perspective or an Illustrator perspective, and those lines are balanced, obviously people are going to go to the guy that has the more computer skills, and art looks good that way. But it's like apples and oranges. They're both fruits, but hey, they're not the same. You know, they're not the same. You can't compare them to Okay, so the world wants something that looks accurate. The world wants something that looks professional. People want to be entertained by things that looks good. But when you go into the skill aspect of everything, you have to know, does this artist know what they're doing? Does this artist know how to do this? Does this artist understand what that they're doing, or what they're trying to convey? Most of the times they do not. And I don't care who says so. Most of the times they do not. The program that they use are telling them. Their friend next to them are telling them. The person they pay to help them are telling them. They didn't learn this on their own. They didn't do this on their own. It wasn't from the ground up. Most people who are great at art come from either middle class or high class families. And while the people who aren't so good at art start from the bottom, and then they work themselves up for 10 until they hit like 15 or 20 years, and then their art starts to become not only recognized but great, because they've been doing it on a daily basis. And if they don't do it on a daily basis, they do it on a weekly or monthly basis. I haven't been doing mine on a daily basis. I've been doing mine on a monthly basis. And I've been on a hiatus 10 years ago, so now I'm back in it from since 2018 and now. So this is something I'm doing now because I have the opportunity to do it now. I didn't have the opportunity to do it 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And so I'm trying to explain to people, okay, if you've taken this long for time to get back into your business, everything is pretty much brand new again. But it's not completely brand new because the skills was already there. So all I need to do is build up those skills. So this is the main thing I need to understand and explain to people when they say, well, your art isn't good and blah, 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 or your art is good, blah, 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 blah. You have to understand the vision from the artist himself or herself and what they're trying to convey. Cannot simply say, okay, I'm going to pay money to this person because this person knows what they're doing more than you. It shows in their artwork. Like, it does not show in their artwork. You just see something nice and pretty on a cake. It doesn't mean that the person knows exactly what they're doing. The person only understands what they read from a video, what they've been told, or they have half that knowledge, and the computer or the software, what they're doing, is giving them half. You don't know if this person is completely skilled in that base. You only understand what they're telling you is skilled in that base. So from my training, everything I've learned is 100% me. Anything you could think about with regards to art in itself is 100% me. Everything I've learned, everything from painting, everything from digital design, everything from animation, everything from body anatomy, everything from sketching, everything from light and shadow, everything from empty area, everything from intensity of light, everything from darks and shadows, everything of understanding that when you're using shadows for character, it's not actually using black, you're actually using blue with complementary towards gray. So it's not exactly a black shadow. Everything that from high rise to low rise, bird's eye view to worm's eye view, all these things are all related to each other. If something is within an empty area, if something is not filled, if a color is not the way it's supposed to be, it's intended to be that way. If something is left off, if you say, okay, I could fill this in, it's because I believe in less and more. If you I believe in the less and more factor, or less is more factor. I have to get that off right. So I believe in the less is more factor. So with that said, I just wanted to get that clarified. So this artwork on the left was intended to look that way. This artwork on the right was intended to look that way. I could have colored her straps on her bag a certain way. I could have colored her straps on her jacket a certain way. I'm going to do that later. Well, what if I decide to not color it whatsoever at all? I leave it all white, or the jacket all white, or the straps all white, and then color around different colors around it to get a certain look, to get a certain texture. That's completely an artist's decision. Does not mean that they don't know what they're doing, or they don't understand what they're doing, or the position, the angles, or where their body's flowing, or where certain things. It's because that a story is being played out, and the story is being played out in the artist's mind, and they're trying to take you in a certain direction. If you don't understand it, you don't understand it, and that's all there is to it. So I'm going to scroll down to the next image. This is the next image. This was also intended to look that way. This person is going from one section to a garden. They see a garden, they're going to sit in the garden. Going to the next section. This person is standing in at the garden, and now another character shows up. The character sees them standing at the garden and asks them, hey, you want to go to class? We're about to miss class. This character, she said, oh, lame class. Okay, but we're going to go to class nonetheless. So next image. This is a conversation between two characters. There, one is sitting down. One, the other area, which is an empty area, is going to be a conversation section of just words that was left off that way. The guy that looks like he's on fire with the gasoline holder, he's intended to look that way. It's a visual image of what he believed, of what the two girls believed that his image looked like based upon what he did in the past. So the guy on the top that's sitting in the chair is actually the same guy that's at the lower area, and they're viewing him from this aspect. They're viewing him in the mind from this aspect, while the teacher is cooking stuff using his powers with the pots. So moving on to the next image, this is going on the next image. A conversation is going on between two characters, and the conversation continues, and it will be part of the story and what's going to be expressed in the story. And the character is looking to the sideways, focusing on the eyes. They're focusing on the hands on the table and the use of the clock. All this is relevant to our story that's going to be playing out. The way the hands are positioned, or the hands are moving, are relevant to where the story is going to be presented. What they're talking about is relevant to where the story is going to be presented. The headache the characters is relevant to what the story is going to be presented and what's going to be going on. The vision and verticality of the image, why this character was placed moving forward, why the distance between the character moving forward and the character backwards from the first person's perspective, and the second person's perspective was included in here, and what's going on. And that's the next one is basically a bird's eye view of a closer angle. So those are things that are going on there, and that's what that's all about. So I just had to set the record straight and keep everyone understand what that is and why I do what I do. I'm going to post this on my YouTube, and you could give it a like, or you could not give it a like. It's up to you. But I wanted to set the record straight, and that's all there is to it. And see you guys next time. If you want to invite friends, that's fine. If not, it's all right with me. I'll keep grinding nonetheless.